if you really want to build, say, a brand
Hmm.
and you want to have a line of products that really represents you,
Yeah.
then I think it's really important to build your signature
Yeah,
style so
for
that you
sure.
can be different from the next artist over, and then be okay with your style being what it is, and being okay with, people saying no, like, and everyone doesn't like my bright bold colors, and I'm okay with that. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's not for you. Okay, next.
I'm so excited today. I have Sareka Unique with me. She is an abstract artist whose bright and vibrant style you can see behind her right now with those gorgeous paintings. It's full of life, and each piece is created uniquely, and it's a way to step into her colorful world. She also creates artwork for stationery and art prints, and she uses that color and that joy to bring smiles to everyone's faces. So I'm so excited to learn more about her journey today. Hi, Sarika.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share and talk and have this conversation today.
Yay. So to start off, can you give us sort of a brief overview of how you became an artist? I know that I'm sure there were lots of steps, but just kind of like the broad strokes so we understand where you were coming from.
Yeah, so I've always been creative and kind of an artist my whole life, but I kind of went into when I went to school for graphic design, visual communication technology. So I have like a background in graphic design and illustration. And never really considered myself an artist. I was always like, oh, I'm a designer, I'm a designer. And then like in about 2017, I just kept getting this urge to paint. And so I kind of just eventually was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. Like, I've always been drawn to abstract work and I wanted to try it myself, but I never like, for the longest, I never gave myself permission, I guess, to try it out
Mm.
because it didn't fit into that designer or, doing freelance work for people and whatnot. And it didn't fit perfectly into that box. So I kind of kept putting it off until one day I just was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. Like, and then I just tried it, and then I've just been going ever since with the fine art part of
I
it.
love that. So, so you did have a art degree. Obviously, graphic design is very different from what you do now, but with that graphic design and illustration background, were you working in like a corporate setting as a graphic designer and then decided to like make the transition to like a full-time situation or a full-time whatever freelancer painter, whatever?
So I was working for a home decor brand in product design
Oh,
at
okay.
the time. But before that I actually don't have my degree in graphic design. I never finished school.
Fair enough.
I kind of took classes here and there, and then I when I was going to finish, I was like, it was just the schools that I was going to, it just didn't fulfill what I wanted it to fulfill or needed
Mhm.
it to fulfill. And
Yeah.
there were other classes and stuff that I wanted to take, like specific to surface pattern design, that I kind of dove into that, and nowhere local to me kind of had any like surface pattern
Right.
design. Like, that's what I really wanted to get into.
Oh,
So
okay.
I kind of pivoted and, kind of went out on my own as far as being educated around, the surface pattern design industry, and, creating artwork for products. And so I was working at a home decor company that's here. I'm in Michigan, so they're local here in Michigan, and I was designing for products for home decor, like mugs and pillows, and it was more hard goods like frames and things of that nature, picture
Mhm.
frames. So, and then from there, like, also while I was doing that, I was also doing side projects and still doing my own surface pattern design thing and illustration work and freelance work for clients. And then one day, I think I've always had the plan. I've always wanted to work for myself, even when I
Mm.
was a kid. Like, people say what you want to do, and I just never had a clue. Like, I was like, I don't know. Like, I just wanted to do my own thing. Like, when I was a kid, I sold jewelry. Like, I used to charge my grandfather quarters to iron his shirts,
You were an entrepreneur.
so that's always kind of been the plan, the goal. And then while I was at that job, I just got an influx of work at one point in time.
Mm,
And then I was just like, I could probably make more money doing this than what I'm currently doing at my job.
right, right.
So, I just gave it a go.
I love that.
After saving up, after saving some of the bigger projects that I got, I ended up getting a collaboration with YouTube, and it was like a big chunk of money. And I was like, okay, that's like my push to, I have this amount of savings, and worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get a job,
Different job. Yeah, yeah, totally. So that's probably around, I'm thinking now, I actually remember I was introduced to your work when I was walking Blueprint one year, and I couldn't tell you the year, but I know you were in a collective with Natalie Williamson and some other talented artists,
Mhm.
and you know, it was very surface pattern oriented. Obviously, it was art for products. It was a surface pattern show, and now you've evolved, and also Natalie has too. And
Yes.
I can't remember who else was in the collective, but both of you have evolved into being fine art painters. And now you have this different business. So talk to me about that sort of evolution from. I mean, you mentioned a little bit, but like how did it go from the surface pattern and the product focused stuff to like now I'm going to get a little think about it more for the from the fine art side of it.
So I think it just kind of started evolving naturally. Like I had so much momentum already behind being a surface pattern designer that it actually, I'm still trying to work on how the two, marrying the two and how they
Mm,
translate to each other. Because I had all that momentum with surface pattern design, I still, even though I was doing my fine artwork, I was still creating like patterns and stuff my old way. So
right.
I was still trying, it took a lot of experimenting and trying to figure out how to mesh the two together. Because I still love surface pattern design. I
Mm,
still love having my designs on project products. But as my style was evolving, it was just kind of like, how do I make that work, you know, in the surface pattern design, world as well. And so I think it was just more so like trial and error, just seeing how things, will mesh together. I did get to play at my previous job. I did get to play around with some of that, like when I was creating a design for like a product line, I did maybe something that was more painterly. And so
hmm.
I'm like, okay, I can play around with this. They kind of gave me a little bit of freedom based off of what kind of mood we were building on to do it how I thought, would look nice. And so I kind of played around with it while I was working, which was
Mm.
nice
Yeah, that's always a
to
good
be
thing.
able to do
Getting
that.
paid to experiment. I love that.
Exactly. And so I think I'm still learning, how to evolve the two. I just, if I'm working on a collection that I know want to go on products, I might mix the two ways of working. Like I may do just some drawings and illustrations. I may do like some painting. Maybe I'll paint on my iPad and try to incorporate that into whatever product that I'm looking to design for.
I love that. Yeah, I think, abstract art is a tricky one when it comes to surface design, right? Like uh, as someone who has seen a lot of people's portfolios, and obviously I've been doing surface pattern for a very long time, and I'm not good at the abstract stuff at all. It is not my bag. I'm not good at it. But I think that there's really only certain products that I feel like if you're all abstract, when someone comes to me with a portfolio that's completely abstract, yes, there are some artists that are able to put their work that's abstract on everything, but for the most part, like are certain, like, is a mug company looking for abstract art, or do they want like a cute, disco ball or whatever's popular at the time, right? And so, when I think of abstract, I often, say like, oh, you might be leaning towards more like apparel or potentially wall art, which obviously fine art and paintings obviously fall into that.
Yeah.
But some of the products that, like gift wrap and stuff like that, yes, of course you can put abstract art on it, but often you don't see that. You see birthday cakes, right?
Right.
So it is tricky. And when, like, as you've, since you kind of started with maybe more of a surface design focus and have moved into I mean, don't let me put words into your journey, but it seems like that. Did you ever feel kind of like, I need to be more marketable as a surface designer or as an artist? I need to do more like motifs, more icons, more actual things that people can name rather than these colorful painterly works. Or were you always just like, who cares? I'm doing my thing, right?
I think I fall along the lines of who cares? I'm just gonna do my thing.
Great.
Like it started off more so like doing the design shows like Blueprint and just being there. My style back then was always very, very bold and even then I didn't gravitate to creating like I didn't want to draw Santa Claus. Like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna draw
fair.
trees and Santa Claus. Like I can, and even working in the working in home decor, there when it came around for Christmas, we all, whether we designed for Christmas or not, we all got a board we had to do for Christmas because it was
Mm,
just so big. And I'm just like, okay, I have this snowman winter wonderland that I have to do. And it just like it always took me the longest because it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. And I was just
yeah.
like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So I think it was like being in those shows, and seeing like what people were looking for, there was a lot of pressure
Yeah.
to do those things. But I think I've always been like the type of person where I'm just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do what I
Yeah.
want to do. And so I think I ended up focusing on that, which I'm sure made my journey a lot longer, a lot harder. But I tried to focus on like building a brand, building a
Right.
recognizable design that people would gravitate to, like, oh my God, I love your work. Let's work together, or so I think my focus in the surface pattern design kind of shifted on trying to design for specific themes to just doing the work that I wanted to create and building up a brand so that people are like, okay, yeah, we know that people love your work. So companies say, well, we want to work with you and kind of
Right.
get those people who love
Right.
you
Yeah.
as
No.
customers.
That and that's so, yeah, it's a whole different thing, right? It's
Yeah.
a different approach. Like, I actually just was on a coaching call today, and I had the person I was coaching, she had this great portfolio, but all her work was like sort of had a like humorous kind of quirky twist that, like,
Mm.
it was icons, like you knew what it was, but it was just like a little bit of a twist that was just not really that commercial. And
Yeah.
I was like, you're doing this so well. Like, don't take out the twist. Like, don't dumb it down for TJ Maxx, because guess
Right.
what? Like, even working for TJ, like getting licensing deals is hard no matter what. Even if you
Yeah.
have like the perfectly commercial thing, breaking into the industry is difficult.
It is.
So do what you love. Like, she was clear, like she had a very distinct style just like you do. And it's like, it's clear that you've got your voice. So stick with
Yeah.
that voice. Like me,
Yeah.
I'm like kind of all over the place. Like I worked for 10 years in-house. And so, I did all those styles. I had to do those Christmas boards. I had to work
Yeah.
more watercolory and then more graphic and whatever. So like, I'm kind of flexible and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be this commercial thing and not necessarily this brand. But like, if you have that style, I think your methods, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but that's the way to go, right? Like, you build a
Yeah.
name for yourself and then everyone comes to you, but it's not
Yeah.
easy. Either way, it's
It's
not easy,
fine.
right? I mean, even
Yeah.
again, like I said, even if you have this like super commercial style, it's not necessarily easy to make those connections and get a ton of licensing deals, but finding those customers one-on-one, business to bit or a business to customer that wants, really colorful, beautiful art. I mean, I'm just keep looking at behind your head. Like, it's like, I want those things too, but getting the SEO and having people find you from all over the
Yeah.
internet or wherever they're looking, that's the hard part, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely a slow burn. And even like, even now after leaving, I left my corporate job in 2022. And so even then, I've been working for myself since then, but do side like I also do 20 hours a week as a freelance social media manager. So
Nice.
like I still have like other things that I do to
Other
bring me
income
income
sources.
so
Yeah.
that it's not putting so much pressure. So yeah, I'm full-time artist, but am I really? Like I'm still
Mm.
doing some other stuff that might not necessarily fall into that full-time artist, but it also kind of gives me the freedom to take that pressure off of like, oh, I need to do this so I can pay my bills, you
I
know?
think that is so, like, thank you for telling us that, because
Yeah,
telling me, it's not the royal we, it's for people who might be seeing this later. No, thank you for telling me that, because like, yeah, that is actually really huge to know that, yeah, not all artists are like, I mean, I'm giving quotes. I mean, like full-time
yeah,
artists, that's the quote part,
yeah,
is like, you need other income sources, right? And it's hard
right,
it's hard to make money in this industry and to consistently make money in this industry.
yeah,
And like you were talking about having like an influx of jobs, it's like I've had that in my career as well, where it's like, oh shoot, I'm making like bank, this is awesome, like I'm even like subcontracting because I can't keep up with it, and then like 2 years later, like crickets, right? And
yeah,
it goes
exactly.
up and down, and you don't know, you kind of have to ride the wave. And if that means having that, side gig as whatever it is,
Right.
that's not art related, that is fine.
Yeah.
Or, and almost it's, in some ways, I think it's really better, because a lot of us try to find another like side art gig, and you're using creative energy in a different way, but it takes away from the creative energy that you have for the art that
Exactly.
you really want to be doing, right?
Right.
So doing something like social media or some other thing, it's like you're not using your brain that you would be using for your paintings. So
Right.
you have that energy to be like, oh my God, I just want to put away, Instagram and Canva templates or whatever you're working on, and like get out these bright colors
Yeah.
and paint. So I love
Exactly.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Um, so, you have a blog, you have a wonderful blog on your website, which I will link to. And you talk about how working artists can explore multiple streams of income, even within like the art side of it. Finding clients, sharing your work in print on demand sites. Can you talk a little bit about what streams of income have worked best for where you are now with, getting into more of the fine art side of things? And also, if you have any like tips about how to assess how long to give a stream of income, or like how if it's going to be working, because this is one thing that I mean, I'm in the same boat, honestly, is like, oh, you have to give so much time to make something work, and it's like each
Yeah.
stream of income is its own, like almost its own new business. And each stream
It
of
is.
income could be like an Etsy store, could be somebody's whole income, but lots of artists have Etsy stores, spoonflower stores, do commissions, do this, do that. So like, how do assess if it's worth it and what's working for you right now?
Yeah. I think because everyone is so different and it depends on what your style is what works for you when it comes to working with like print on demand sites and licensing partners. It depends on how you like to work and how much you want to put into that specific, that specific lane. So
Right.
say like, and then that, I guess that company, you have to kind of assess like how much they put into it, how
Mhm.
much they invest into their, their artists and their creators. Like, are they also promote, like, how are they promoting your product too. Like
Right.
like
Yeah.
alongside you, what kind of partnership it is. Is the actual product something that you want to be like your main product? Are you gonna promote it, that specific thing like until you're blue in the face?
Right, because you're so psyched about it, right?
Yeah, and I think over the years, like trying out different sites, like I had a Society 6. It was very random, but I had like one specific design just go that I'm probably uploaded like 50 or 60 different designs. And then I just had one out of those that kind of did really well. And then it was just kind of like on autopilot where I wasn't promoting it much. It was nice to be able to have those things and then be able to have the physical products as well, doing shows and stuff. But it wasn't something that I put a ton of work into.
Hmm.
But also when they switched, because they switched things up within the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
yeah. They
And
dumped
so
all their
I
art. Well, no, they chose.
they dumped us
They
all in.
decided to curate down to something. I
Yeah.
also well, I don't know about you, but I got the email that said like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we don't want you." I had like two things on there, so it wasn't a big loss. But
Yeah. I did too. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I wasn't that into working with them anyway. So
mhm.
it wasn't sad
Devastating.
for me. I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
okay. Like I guess the $20 that it ended up being every month or
Month, yeah.
so would be fine. I'd be okay with that. But I guess it just all depends on like how much what works for you, like how much you want to put into it. Right now, my biggest licensing partner, I would say, would be Geometry House. I love how they work with their artists. They're good at communicating with their artists. They're always promoting products. They're always standing behind their artists and helping push in other ways.
Hmm.
Some companies they just like want to put it all on you to promote the products, but if you're working with a company that's also excited about their products, they're excited about working with artists and having new designs and are always thinking of creative ways to promote those products, and also want to pay you well,
Yeah, yeah.
is always a plus.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I think it's like I think it's really tough to assess income streams because almost all of the ones that at least that I know of for artists, usually, not always, but usually take time to
To
ramp
grow.
up, right? Like if you did have a Society 6 store, if you have a Spoonflower, if you have a Redbubble, if even if it's not print on demand, if it's licensing and you're reaching out and you're pitching yourself, like all of those things take like even if you're working at it 40 hours a week, which so many people are not because
Yeah.
they have jobs or do it, it's a side hustle until it makes the income to not be a side hustle.
Right.
You know, it takes so much time to master that and to get traction on those platforms or, to get traction in that you've pitched a lot and your art is the right fit for who you're pitching to. And so that you're starting to get deals and even those deals take time to pay out. So then it's like,
Right.
it just takes time. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, like for any of these income sources, I feel like they take 2 years minimum to start to like pay out in a more than a $15 here and there type way.
Right.
So it's I think it gets tricky to say like, do I have 2 years to invest in this thing that may or may not be good? And I feel for
Yeah.
me at least, I feel a little like gun shy because I feel like for licensing, that was an idea that I had. I was like, I'm going to do freelancing and I'm going to do licensing. And licensing is going to be like this, and freelance is going to be like this, and they're going to be 50% of my business, and hooray. And
Exactly. I think we all
uh,
kind of have that.
yeah,
Like,
I was like, I'm gonna, the licensing side, I can do whatever I want, and people will eventually, it's all gonna connect, and it takes time to build up, but I'll get there. And freelance will be what clients need from me, and client briefs, and that's cool too, and
right.
like da da da. But like freelance eventually did build up, licensing built up, but never like it was
Yeah.
always 25% of my art income.
Mhm.
Freelance stayed at 75%. Like all for like the last 10 years, right? And no
Yeah.
matter all the different things I've gone through, like when they both go down or they both go up or whatever, but it's always been about 25%. And
Yeah.
so that felt, and, but effort wise, for a long time, it was 50-50. After a while, I started like losing steam on it and not putting as much effort into licensing.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel a little like, oh, am I going to invest in another thing for 3 years and then it maybe doesn't pan out? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to, learn every way to tag something in Spoonflower,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly. You
hard.
kind of have to weigh what it is that you really, I guess, what it is that you really want, and
Mhm.
then versus the amount of time and effort that you're willing to put into it.
Yeah.
And so it's like really being clear on like what your end game is, what your end goals is, and thinking on like a 5 year plan,
Yeah.
and knowing that like some of it can really take a lot of time and effort. And if you're not, your heart has to be in it,
Yes, that's what I
to
was
be
gonna
in,
say.
to
Like,
put that time into it. Like you really have to be
you really have
okay
to be
not making
passionate.
money
You
for a
really
little
do.
bit.
And
Yeah,
I say this and I say like kind of like what's your why and why do you want to do this? And like
yeah,
not only do you have to be passionate, but I'm very pragmatic. So and I like money, right? So
yeah, exactly.
so like, it's not like oh, you have to have this passion fueled creativity and if you're making things that you're not passionate about, then what, that's not worth anything or it's nothing like that. What it
Right.
is
Yeah.
if you don't love it, you will give up way before you actually make money because it takes so dang long, right? Like that's where I'm
Exactly.
at. So it's like you better if you think this is like a get rich quick,
Yeah.
like, ooh, I can just draw some, whatever butterflies
Right.
and I'm gonna be rolling in it
Right.
in a
Or be
year.
okay working in house somewhere where, you have that steady paycheck and you
Yeah.
still get to create not necessarily what you want to create all the time. But
Yeah.
there's that too. So you have to kind of like figure out what is going to work best for you and your lifestyle and the lifestyle that you want. And I know going into fine art, that kind of gave me another set of way to make income, because like I can
Yeah. So
sell
talk to
an
me a little bit about
original
that because that's so
painting.
different. That's so
Yeah.
different, right? Like there's like this the original art, there's potential for like gallery stuff. Like I don't know much about it, but talk to me a little bit about that transition and how you've learned and adjusted with that side of things.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was first doing like local markets, not really the ones that I'm like, okay, I know I'm not gonna make much here, but I try to focus on the markets that heard from other artists were really good.
Mhm.
So those, and showing my work there, building a following that way. When people see your work and get to know you, oh, they come to this market every year, and now they see you here every
Mm.
year, and so they buy originals, they buy prints, and then
Getting
they
them on that newsletter,
getting on your
right?
newsletter so that you can, when you have a release, they know. Um, I think that created a whole nother quicker income for me.
Yeah.
And then there's the gallery side of it as well. Like, you still have to pitch to galleries, you still have to send out your work and see if they want to work together. Apply for shows and get your artwork in different places where art buyers are, where people who want to fill their home with original artwork. Is a whole different, it's a whole different challenge and ball game. Um, Doing shows, and like one of the shows I really want to do is Art Basel, but I haven't gotten up to that level yet. But I
Mm.
walked it, and just seeing all the artists there and all the different
Mm.
galleries there was just so inspiring,
I bet.
And
Yeah.
so it's definitely a different ball game from surface pattern design. And I can't really say that I love one over the other. I think they kind of mesh together some
They
kind of cool
complement each other.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe now tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like there's, some of the same skill sets, right? Because the
Yeah.
pitching and the being okay with, rejection and understanding that, everyone has their own, like tastes and
Right.
art is subjective, right? Like,
Yeah.
some people are never gonna go for your work and some
Yeah.
people can't wait to have more and more and more of it, right? And
Yeah.
same for
Exactly.
art directors, right? Art directors
Yeah.
are like, you're like, but it's so commercial. I'm for me, I'm like, oh, it's so commercial, like it's on trend, it's da 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 da, and it doesn't catch their eye, and so the deal doesn't go through. But
Yeah.
um I wonder, yeah, there's probably some other parallels too, I'm wondering, but
Yeah. And then there's also licensing fine artwork. Like there are
mm,
companies who will license your fine artwork for prints and whatnot. So there's that aspect as well. Like it overlaps a little bit in that way. I can still do fine art, but can also have my fine art licensed for wall art, you know? So
right,
there's
yeah,
that as
no, that's
well.
true.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about signature style. This is a hot topic with certainly with surface pattern, right? People, there's a bit of a debate, but a lot of people will say, like, you need a signature style. You've got to figure out your signature style. I'm not one of those people, by the way, but but many people will say that, and I understand why they say that. But you know, how was your experience with sort of coming to get into this exploration? You described earlier of like, I just had to get this painting out of me, like, the graphic design and the things you were doing in your day job and stuff like that. But it's like you just wanted to get this color and this joy out of you. How crucial is it to kind of get to your voice as an artist and figuring out what is unique about you or your signature style?
I think it depends on where you want to go with your career. Like if you want to be a freelance, surface pattern designer or designer in general, and you're working with a bunch of different companies, it might not be viable to focus on having a signature style. It might be, more beneficial to have an array of buckets that you can pull from for working with these different companies. But if you really want to build, say, a brand
Hmm.
and you want to um, have a line of products that really represents you,
Yeah.
then I think it's really important to build your signature
Yeah,
style so
for
that you
sure.
can be different from the next artist over, and then be okay with your style being what it is versus and being okay with people saying no, like, and everyone doesn't like my bright bold colors and I'm okay with that. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's not for you. Okay, next. Like I mean, there's no heartbreak behind it. There's no, I'm not, of course I want everyone to love my
Of
work, but
course,
I'm not
yeah.
sad when
But
there's
it's
people
not,
who
it's,
don't,
yeah.
and then I think it just takes a lot of time doing things over and over and over again, like
Mm,
repetition and practice to kind of draw it out. Even when it comes to like, for a long time, I didn't see how my designs in the past that I did for surface pattern design and then my fine art, I was like, how do I'm like, they're two different styles completely. But then a lot of people feedback from others was like, I can still tell that they're both you just by like your color choices and like how you, just, I guess there's still like a correlation between the
right. There's
two that
still a
people can
common
see.
thread. Yeah.
And I think it's just inserting, I mean, putting you in there just over time, repetition, doing it again and again and again and again. It just kind of builds that, like, I do the same brush strokes or motifs or like my I can never make a circle. It's always like a ellipse or something. And
Yeah.
it's like unique to you because you've done it over and over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again,
Yeah. No,
and
totally.
those things stand out in your work, you know.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I think iteration is such a big part of it. And, that's one thing. Like as I said, like I'm not huge on signature style, but that's because
Yeah,
exactly what you described. Like I'm coming from more of like a freelance side, so for me, it's worked out to be flexible. But yes, I certainly say if you want to be a recognizable brand, then yeah, you better you better figure it out. And that is all about repetition. And one way that like as I develop my licensing portfolio, that I kind of explored that was by like as I created things, I would look at the last, 5 collections that I created and say, what are my favorite, which ones are my favorites, what about it are my favorites, what parts of it, is it the color choice, is it the way the textures I use, is it the line work, what is the things that I like, and then I would actively try to put those elements into the next collection, and I would do that a few times, and then I would look back at the last 5 and like what, kind of, it's like I feel like that helps, that iteration, and also taking the time to actually analyze why you like
analyze
your
your work.
work. That's that kind of speeds up the evolution because then you're actively
Does.
taking those pieces rather than like, oh, today I'll do, animals, and today you can do different themes, obviously, but like if you're looking at what you really like and what really appeals to your eye, then yeah, I think you get there a little faster than if you're just kind of like creating and creating and then not really analyzing until maybe you're like, wait, I need a signature style. What am I to
Yeah, I
do?
think that's a perfect way of putting it. Like even with my fine artwork, I do the same thing. Like I stare at my paintings all the time and I'm like, oh, I really like how I did that motif or something like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna do that in the next painting. Maybe but they're all intuitive and completely different, but they all have like my handprint on it, my style of making paint marks or strokes, and
Hmm.
so or color choices. Like I love
Right.
how I used these colors in this painting, or maybe this little section of the painting I like, but the rest of it, but I'm gonna explore that in the next set of paintings that I do.
I
So
love that.
I think it goes for whether you're just doing illustration work or anything that you do. I think you said it perfectly, just paying attention to what you did in the past and seeing what you liked about it and what feels like you in those things and bringing it on to the next set of artwork that you create.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Well, my next question is, and this is not an easy one, but what's your top advice for someone who was where you were when you were starting out? Now, maybe that's I don't know. You can decide where you started out because obviously you have some different like, turning points in your
Yeah.
career. But, tell me what you're thinking if you were getting started again.
Um, I think my top advice would just to be open
Hmm.
to change and trusting the journey. Like even um like I didn't start painting for a long time, but there was a little voice for a really long time that I ignored.
Hmm.
So I would say if I didn't ignore that voice and took on that challenge sooner, I could possibly be in a different place. But I don't regret not listening to it.
Right.
But at the same time, there was key indicators on how I should move that I probably ignored a little bit. So it's kind of like being in tune with your intuition and
Ooh,
trusting
so
trusting
hard.
yourself.
I
It
have a
is.
hard
It
time.
is. It is. It's like you have to kind of cut out the noise of everything and just figure out what is meaningful to you. Figure out what it is that you really enjoy even if you're not making any money from it.
Right, right,
And then typically, if you stick with a thing, you're gonna make money from it. Like it's gonna
right.
give you a
Eventually,
return.
right? You got to really
Yeah.
dig in, but yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
So I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Being open, I love that. Being open to what might come to you, kind of trying to listen
Yeah.
to
'Cause there's
listen to that little inner voice and tune out the noise. And that is really like I have a hard time with that, but
yeah.
but I
Be
know
willing
it's
to sit with it.
important. Like it sounds like good
Yeah.
advice.
Because if you're open, you're okay with pivoting in different directions as
Yes,
well. And you
flexibility.
might, yeah, definitely.
I
Definitely. And
know. And
everything,
I,
the world's constantly changing and yeah.
yes, for
There
sure.
there's this whole AI thing that we're going on now that we're all
Mm,
dealing with. And so like not being completely closed off from it and just learning from it and kind of being open and seeing how you can use it to your advantage,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
than staying in a box and like, oh, I hate this. You know, you can be so closed off and closed minded that you're closing doors on yourself versus exploring options that might take
Might
you
take you somewhere new.
somewhere you
Yeah.
never thought you would be as well.
I love that. That's a great, yeah, great example, honestly, because yeah, I think especially as artists and as a fine artist and as a commercial artist, yeah, a fine artist, maybe you're a little, I don't know, but like as a commercial artist, it's concerning because, right,
Yeah,
as brands
yeah,
have less money, it seems like it's easier for them to type in like make me a whatever Daisy repeat or something like that and have something sort of okay. I mean, it's not going to be as great as, a real artist, but it feels concerning and like it's
it is.
going to impede, but I love the idea of, that's one example of ways that we could just kind of keep our mind open and think
Yeah.
about, is there any trying to look at things from different angles and the flexibility. I agree with the flexibility for sure. Like, as much as someone might look at my career and say, you've always been a surface designer. And since I've been working for myself, I started in 2013. So for 13 years now, or 2012 actually, for 13 years now, I've been, like freelance and licensing and stuff. But in my mind, like if you really break it down, there's lots of like little different ways that I've gone and little things, and I've definitely experimented. And I think that is that being willing and open to try different things is what leads to longevity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it keeps things exciting. It keeps you from getting bored.
Yes, exactly. That was one of the things that I loved about freelance when I first started was like different companies, different projects, different everything. Like
Yeah.
it's so much, from having worked in-house where once you've been through a full, I'm assuming it's the same for
Yeah.
yours. It's
Once
like
you've been
once you've
through
been
a
through a
full
full
year,
year, like if you've done all the seasons, it just kind of is a little bit of a rinse and
exactly.
repeat. Like, those Christmas boards come around every single year and you got to
Yeah,
get to
yep.
them.
And then you can't deviate too much from that company style either. So it's almost like, okay, it's the this she our art director loved when we ripped off ourselves. Like, yeah,
Yeah, oh
with this
yeah, for
product
sure.
did really well. So let's do the same thing, but just tweak it like a little bit, So
That is
that
such the hot, like
like,
Sareka, for real, this is what I tell people. Art directors want the same thing except for 10% fresher. Right? Like, is that it? People think they
yes,
have to reinvent the
exactly.
wheel. I'm like, look at what they're
Exactly.
selling and make it 10% fresher, like whatever that
Right.
means, right?
Exactly.
So true. So you just said your art director does it, like your had done it, like they all do it. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
they all do
So
it. Yeah. And
yes,
I mean, the company has to make money, and sometimes people aren't as open to a lot of fresh new ideas when they're shopping. Homes don't change if they're in home decor,
quickly.
people don't change their homes that quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just like a little tweak, a little
Yeah.
update, and that's how you get those evolution of trends, right? And just like, oh, it's slightly different than it was last year, and then it
Yeah.
eventually in 3 or 4 years, you're like, oh, that's actually really different or pretty different from 6 years ago or whatever. But it's that slow evolution of introducing something new.
And it's also
Um,
how your artwork changes over time too. Like when you're doing things one way and you look at your work that you made 5 years ago and you look at your work that you have make now and you're like, oh wow, that's very different. But while you're in the process of it, you don't really see those changes, as much as quickly. And so
yeah.
it's kind of the same a little
I
bit.
love that. That's so true. That's so true. Well, this has been delightful. I'm excited to go to I mean, I've been to your website, obviously, but now I'm going to be looking at prints because I cannot stop staring at the turquoise and pink and orange dotted
Oh,
painting
thank
behind
you.
you. So I'm like, do I need to? I don't know if that one specifically is available, but I might need a print or something. I don't know if I can afford an original, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
That one isn't up there yet. I'm always like, it's a whole different story doing prints and getting paintings
Okay.
photographed and getting the colors to match up. And
True.
yeah, that's
Okay.
a
Well, then
whole
I'll have
different.
to see what there is. So, for anyone who's interested, I will put obviously your website and your shop in the description. So definitely check that out. And word on the street, you told me earlier that you're working on a coloring book. Where did that idea come from? Or, I mean, yeah. Well, what prompted you to work on that?
Yeah, ever since I started surface pattern design, people have been asking me for a coloring book forever. But then as my style changed and I got into more fine art, and I'm like, what would that even look like? And then I kept putting so much thought into it that I kept putting it off. I'm thinking like I have to go and make all these like really detailed illustrations. And I have a group of artist friends and we meet up at least once a month. And I was telling them about, wanting to create a coloring book. And she's like, oh, I thought you would just trace some of your paintings, the ones that you have on painting, like this one right here. Just trace it, outline it, and have people color it in. I'm like, I never thought I was like, I never thought about that. That's brilliant. You just like fixed my you just
That's why we
did
need
it in
artist
like five
friends.
seconds. I was like, so it's gonna be kind of like an iteration of a lot of my abstract work, some of my faces that I do where people can go and color it in and be more, it's more of a free, open expressive coloring book more so
Ooh.
than like your standard here's a picture of a
Yeah,
bird,
yeah.
type.
I love that. That's so much fun. Okay, so we'll put links to that as well.
Yeah.
If it's out, if not, we will have some people can find it. They're going to be able to find it because they'll have your website. So I'm so excited for that. So thank you so much for joining me, Sarika. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Ready to level up your surface pattern design game? Dive into the ultimate resource hub for aspiring designers, the Surface Pattern Boss Toolkit. Unlock a treasure trove of freebies, including sales sheet templates, exclusive industry expert videos, and mini courses to grow your creative business. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description below to access your toolkit now and become a pattern design pro.